give us access to the world. They help us learn, grow, and build relationships. But imagine seeing and not being able to understand what it is that you're looking at. Hi, I'm Bianca, and today I'm going to be talking to you about visual processing disorder. Contrary to what one might think, visual processing disorder actually has little and pretty much nothing to do with the eyes and everything to do with the brain. A child with visual processing disorder might even have 20/20 perfect vision. However, the brain is unable to process the information that the eyes are seeing. This means that children with visual processing disorder might have problems differentiating between letters, picking socks to put on in the morning, or even trouble noticing the door frame when walking into a room. A visual processing disorder can manifest itself in many ways, creating a slew of problems academically, socially, and even making it difficult for a child to go about their daily routine. There are several different types of visual processing disorders. However, the ones I'm going to discuss today, I believe, have specific implications for children who are in the grade school level. The first type of visual processing disorder I'm going to discuss is called visual discrimination issues. Now, some people might already be slightly familiar with this type of issue, and the discrimination issue truly makes it difficult for children to distinguish the difference between letters, shapes, and objects. Commonly, this can be seen in children who have trouble distinguishing between the letters D and B or P and Q. The next type of visual processing disorder I'm going to discuss is called figure ground discrimination issues. This type of discrimination issue means that the child might have difficulty pulling out certain words from text or a cluttered background. So if a teacher asks a student, "Find me an example of personification from the story or from the text," the child probably will understand what the teacher is asking. However, the child will not be able to pull that information from a text while flipping through the pages of the textbook. The two pictures on this slide might give you a better understanding of what figure ground discrimination truly means. So in the top horizontal picture, you see that there's a bunch of letters. However, it's a little bit complicated to make the letters out or to actually distinguish one letter. So a child with figure ground discrimination might view an image that way. Or on the bottom, there's a picture of a worksheet, and it says find the alphabet, and the alphabet is scattered in this picture. The child with figure ground discrimination issues might not be able to pull those letters out because the background is so cluttered. Visual motor processing is another type of visual processing disorders. Now, a child with visual motor processing issues will have difficulty taking in what their eyes see and using it to help coordinate their motor skills. So, children with this type of issue might have trouble writing within the margins on lined paper, have difficulty not bumping into things around the classroom, and also might have trouble copying information from a textbook or board. As you can see on the video on this slide, this is one of the activities that might be useful when helping distinguish between whether a child has a visual motor processing issue or not. As you can see, the little girl is trying to put the blocks in the right shape. However, she seems to be having a problem, and this might be attributed to visual motor processing delay. She knows what the shape is, however, she can't seem to find the proper place that it belongs in. The last thing I'm going to discuss is short-term and long-term memory issues. Now, this is a very common type of visual processing disorder, and what it means is children have difficulty recalling things that they have either seen during a class presentation or read while studying or reviewing material on a short and long-term scale. And despite studying, children might still have difficulty recalling information because their brain has not processed what they studied or reviewed or even seen in class. Some of the ways a visual processing disorder might manifest itself in the classroom is that a teacher might notice that a child is super engaged in the classroom discussion, actively learning, asking questions, and in general really understanding the material. However, when it comes time to take a test or to have an assessment on the lesson, the child's scores do not reflect the same understanding. This is because in a lesson, when a child is learning through his ears or through audio stimuli, the child has no problem learning and understanding the material. The problem really lies on when the child is required to visually process material, such as test questions or things on the board. One of the first steps in identifying a visual processing disorder is typically a referral to the school nurse or an eye doctor. Teachers and parents often assume that the discrepancy between content knowledge and test scores is because the child is having a problem seeing the material. Therefore, it's almost immediate that children who are identifying symptoms of visual processing disorder are sent to the school nurse or moved even closer to the board or the learning materials in the classroom. Once students, teachers, and parents identify that this is not the issue, in fact, it is a processing issue, then these children can begin getting the supports that they need to learn in the classroom effectively. Our classrooms are very visual. Teachers present PowerPoint presentations in order to teach their students. Children are required to read textbooks and work on workbook pages. However, for children with visual processing disorders, this is a huge challenge. Therefore, children with visual processing disorders need the proper supports in order to learn effectively. Some of these supports can be as easy as more audio demonstration of the material. Teachers can lecture, and this might actually help the student because their audio retention is wonderful. It's their eyes and their brain who cannot process the material. Maybe even allowing the child to bring in a tape recorder. Since they cannot study through their notes because they might not be able to process that material correctly, if they bring in a tape recorder, they would be able to play back the material as often as they'd like at home in order to study and be able to understand the material better as well. Until a child is identified as having a visual processing disorder in the classroom, their time in a classroom might truly be a struggle. If teachers use smart boards and other forms of visual technology to teach, this child is at a serious disadvantage because their brain is not processing what they're learning. Therefore, classrooms really need to have these audio supports in place in order for children with visual processing disorder to flourish. Therefore, teachers should try and lecture more. Yes, visual presentations are always helpful, and they do work for the other children in the class. However, children with visual processing disorders need that audio stimuli in order to really learn. Children with visual processing disorder should be allowed to bring in a tape recorder instead of writing handwritten notes. By tape recording their teacher, they can physically hear what the teacher is saying when they go home in the evening. However, handwritten notes, they might not write neatly, they might not write within the margins, they might not even accurately take down what the teacher is saying. Peer tutoring is also another helpful tool that can be implemented in the classroom. Since these children might have difficult time reading instructions on worksheets or on tests, having a peer tutor there to mentor this child or just assist them along the way would be extremely helpful as well. Lastly, tests can be administered orally, and teachers can accept oral answers on tests as well. If reading and processing what the child is reading on a test is the challenge, then teachers can administer the test orally and accept oral answers. Visual processing disorder does not mean that a child does not know or understand the content. It just means that the child is having an issue processing what is being asked of them. Therefore, an oral test might be a good way to eliminate this discrepancy between content knowledge and the scores on a test. The addition to audio supports in the classroom also can be really helpful for the other students in the classroom. Not every student learns the same way, so some students might really enjoy the visual materials presented in class, but other students might benefit from the audio materials presented in class. Having an active combination of both visual and audio supports in the class not only helps the student with visual processing disorder, but also helps all the students in general by providing a multimodal approach to learning. Although many of the implications of visual processing disorder do have to do with learning and a child's experience within a classroom, there are some implications for the child's life outside of the classroom as well. The limited hand-eye coordination that comes about because of the visual motor processing issue can make it difficult for a child to participate in sports and other extracurricular activities. Hand-eye coordination is a key factor in many sports such as soccer, baseball, dance, cheerleading, gymnastics, and if a child does have visual motor processing issues, it can be challenging for a child to actually participate actively in these extracurriculars. Children may also have trouble completing daily routine tasks, such as picking out matching socks to wear in the morning, getting out of bed and walking to the bathroom without bumping into anything. The motor issues really play a part in a child's daily life, as well as just processing what they're actually seeing. Maybe they need directions and they can't follow street signs. These issues can have some serious implications for a child's daily life, and it is helpful if these children do get the supports that they need to live a safe and normal life. Having a visual processing disorder is not limiting. In fact, it is a new way to experience the world. Growing up with a visual processing disorder can be challenging. However, because of the supports that are in place in classrooms around the world, such as tape recorders, peer tutoring, and audio supports, children can have an easy transition from learning in school to their adult lives. Adults with visual processing disorder have the unique advantage of knowing which techniques and strategies work for them and which do not work for them. Therefore, their visual processing disorder does not need to be a limiting factor in their future careers. Rather, it is just a new way to access information and seek out new ways to do things. Here is a short activity that might help demonstrate what it's like to have a visual processing disorder. Grab a paper and pencil and get ready to see. In conclusion, visual processing disorder is when the brain cannot process what the eyes are looking at. There are various types of VPD, and each have a different set of challenges to overcome. Children at first might be misdiagnosed and sent to the eye doctor for glasses. However, that is not the case with visual processing disorder. Although VPD can cause some problems at school, there are easy solutions and supports that can be implemented to help the child succeed, such as more audio stimuli in the classroom, teacher lecturing, tape recorder as a means to take notes, and peer tutoring. VPD also has implications for a child's life at home and after school, so it is important that parents work with their children to come up with some techniques and strategies to make dealing with VPD easier. For example, if a child walks home from school, parents should practice this route with their child so the child is comfortable with how to get home and won't get easily lost. Lastly, VPD is not limiting. In fact, it is simply just a different way to experience the world. I hope you have all enjoyed this webinar on visual processing disorder and learned something that you didn't previously know. Thank you.